briefly, to what Matt was discussing, you suggested that the budget was handed to us. My understanding of the budget process is that cabinet secretaries go in, they make their arguments, they get their marks. But I think the objection by Senators Corker, Graham, and others, Republicans on the Hill, was that the secretary embraced the mark he was given by OMB rather than arguing, and enthusiastically embraced it to the point where a bipartisan subcommittee had to criticize him to his face over this.
Let me go back and check my facts on this, but I recall being in meetings here, and Robert, maybe you can fact check me on the fly on this one, that I think the original budget cuts were suggested or given to us at, say, X, and the secretary argued for smaller budget cuts. And the secretary, to my knowledge, from my recollection, ended up winning that argument. Look, we're dealt with a budget that we have. We have this budget, and we're dealing with it. And the good thing is, at least in this, to the extent that, and people are probably never happy about budget cuts, but that we can make the decisions about where those cuts are made.
And Congress has restored some of it. And I just wanted to point out to you that Richard Haas from the Council on Foreign Relations, a former high-ranking State Department and NSC official in Republican administrations, has said that his capacity for, he thought his capacity for surprise was exhausted, but that Rex Tillerson today justified reductions in State Department personnel in part from the expectation that the U.S. is going to succeed in getting some conflicts resolved, referring to the Wilson appearance. And he asks rhetorically, really, which? North Korea, Ukraine, South China Sea, Yemen, Israel, Palestine? Is it realistic to suggest that you need fewer diplomats these days because there will be fewer crises? I think
that's what the secretary was saying. I think issues are being conflated there. One with dollars and two with personnel. I think when the secretary refers to, let's see, let me just read part of what he said today. And this is, I'm reading halfway into the sentence, so bear with me. Part of this bringing the budget numbers back down is reflective of an expectation that we're going to have success in some of these conflict areas, of getting those conflicts resolved and moving to a different place in terms of the kind of support that we have to give them. It's a combination of things: that sustainability, a recognition that those numbers are really the outliers. The numbers we're moving to are not the outliers. They're more historic in terms of levels of spending.
That is an expectation about resolving conflicts. Where? Afghanistan?
I know. I would like to answer your question, so hold on. So I think one example that he's referring to could be, let's take Syria right now. Syria is extremely expensive, putting the U.S. military aside, but in terms of our State Department work there, one of the significant things that we're doing, and I cannot underscore enough just how expensive it is, demining. Imagine all of the places where ISIS has strung up bombs around schools and homes and booby-trapped things, and so we bring in outside teams to conduct that demining. That is very expensive right now. You've seen the pictures, you've seen the rubble, you've seen the destruction and devastation. Another thing is removing all that rubble, getting the equipment in to do that. All of that tremendously expensive, on top of the security and the personnel that we have to enable to do that. Eventually, because we are not in the big nation building again that this government was previously in, ultimately, a lot of the cost of building roads and bridges and all that will be borne by other nations. We have talked about Saudi Arabia pledging to do a lot in terms of those big reconstruction projects. We won't be in that business anymore. We won't be spending that kind of money. So I think what the secretary is referring to is we're spending a lot of money in a place like Syria. We don't anticipate that the amount that we're spending today will continue forever. Eventually, other countries start picking up the tab for some of the bigger projects as well.
That would require a political solution, presumably now with Russia's protege Assad still in power.
Right.
I'll leave it there.
He is. You're absolutely right. He still is in power. We are committed to the Geneva process, and we are working toward that. Look, I think everyone here in this room and in this building wants Assad out 5 years ago, longer than that. It is going to be a political process. It is going to take some time to get there. Okay, it's not going to get there overnight. Still have a lot of work that needs to be done. Okay. Okay.